Hello and welcome to the News9 Plus show on the world's first news and current affairs OTT platform, News9 Plus. On the show today, we'll talk about the impact of the deportation of illegal Indian immigrants, the troubles plaguing India's indigenous Dhruv advanced light helicopter, and finally, New Delhi's capital shame, its three garbage mountains. The Indian diaspora in the United States is the richest ethnic group in the US. They are top contributors in the US economy and technology. They had some of the biggest tech firms like Microsoft and Google. And they're there in politics, of course. There are 6 congressmen and women on Capitol Hill. But there's a darker side to the story. And it's made up of the hundreds of thousands of Indians who have crossed over illegally into the United States. They are now being deported from the US and back to India. Now, last year, the US deported 1 Indian every 6 hours. The number of Indians deported saw a dramatic 400% increase, rising from just 292 people in 2021 to 1,500 in 2024. But this time around, under President Donald Trump, the US has kicked off the biggest deportation program in its history. It is using the US military and the US Air Force to deport illegal immigrants. Now, the first C-17 transport aircraft is due to land shortly in India, bringing back 205 illegal Indians. At least 18,000 Indians who've been detained could follow suit. Now, there are more than 700,000 more illegal Indians in the United States, illegal immigrants who've crossed over into the US. That's a lot of flights back home. It's a sensitive diplomatic issue between the two countries. It could be on the agenda when Prime Minister Modi visits the White House next week to meet President Donald Trump. The questions we're asking today on the 9 p.m. show is, how can India ensure that illegal immigrants don't sour the American dream for legal immigrants who are contributing to the US economy? Why do Indians want to migrate overseas, risking life and limb? And what lies ahead for the illegal Indian immigrants when they return? Joining me to discuss this are Surinder Singh Lali, Ramneek Singh Maan, and my colleague Manish Jha, Executive Editor, TV9 Bharatvarsh. Gentlemen, welcome to the News9 Plus show. I want to start by asking my colleague Manish to just bring us up to speed on the latest developments. Manish, what is the MEA saying about these deportation flights, the first of which is due to land in India shortly?
MEA has not spoken anything right now about the current military plane which is coming to India with illegal Indian immigrants. But since India has, the government of India has spoken many times about the illegal immigrant issues, and mostly the Indian government is saying that the India and US both are working together to tackle this issue, number one. And then there is a big difference between legal immigrants and illegal immigrants, obviously. So the issue pertaining to H-1B visa or the green card holders or some other Indians who are there, who visited there with visa and legal papers, their issues are quietly different from these illegal immigrants, especially those who went there via donkey routes and some other routes, there are lots of proof with the Indian government as well as US government that lots of Khalistani elements in Canada is also working, and they are helping lots of Indians to illegally enter into the United States.
Right.
So the issue is actually very complex and really, very scary. That's why when we discuss about the exact number of Indian immigrants, illegal immigrants. So when we are saying that it's more than 700,000 of immigrants, then there are lots of people who are actually waiting for green card regularization or H-1B visa issue. But at present, around 18,000 people are ready to deport. And this is the first flight, and we hope that dozens of such military flights will come in a few days.
Yes, absolutely. Dozens of military flights. And Manish, very interestingly, the US government could have sent them back by commercial aircraft, but they've chosen, military aircraft like C-17s. I think they're trying to send a message there. Donald Trump the showman that he is, trying to send out that message that he's using all resources at his disposal, including the US military, to send these illegal immigrants back. But Surinder Singh Lali, what happens to these illegal immigrants when they come back to India? Most of them have paid agents an average of between 30 and 40 lakhs to migrate illegally. What is going to be the impact on states like Punjab and Gujarat, from where these illegal immigrants have come from? And once they go back, what kind of life do they have? Do they actually settle down back, or do they again plan to find some other way of going back?
Thank you, Sandeep. It's a pleasure and honor for me to be here. And it's quite ironical you say that, because when I had, these illegal Indians who were in the process of getting their political asylum, and
Yes.
I wish not to be quoted, some were absolutely illegal when they used to work for me, especially from Punjab. I used to work in New York City.
Yes.
And I would often tell them that, what are you doing in minus 25 degrees, working for $4 or $6 without any benefits, six
Right.
of you living out of a one-bedroom house, and the kind of money you paid to come here. And that was the time when the mobile business was very big in India. So I told
Yes.
them, if you were to invest this money in India,
Yes.
you could not only live with dignity, but that country is growing. This is not the country to be in, but please understand,
Right.
Sandeep, we've been ruled by the whites for the longest of time. So the
Right.
obsession for Gora land,
Yes.
the obsession for going to America, Canada is
Yes.
supreme. And in that obsession, people don't deploy any sort of logics in it.
Right.
It's just the trend that, Santa is going and Banta is going, and I'm also going to go live the American dream.
Right.
And that was a time when social media was not very active, unlike now. So a lot of people wouldn't either come back and tell the miserable, dismal conditions
Yes.
they were living in America and Canada. So, everybody wanted to live the American dream without realizing. And when I would tell them go back, and, if they had a very morbid, confused look on their face, I said, why don't you go
Right.
back? And they're like, oh, how can we go back? Because for them, it was sort of a demotion, because they made so much of noise. They
Yes.
sold their land and their tractor and their farm and pushed their parents to pay and went there.
Yes.
So now it was like, taking demotion. And Punjabis are not known, because they've always been known for their valor and strength and dignity and sacrifice. So for
And
them,
living life
it
king
became a
size.
big
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and their obsession. And, so for them, it was a sort of a dressing down, or negotiating on their self-pride. How can we go back? Because a lot of them, after getting there, realized that this is not the America that they saw on, Top Gun movie that came out, or Beverly Hills Cop. That's what I went and went to America for.
Right.
So once they realized it was too late, and by the time, they'd paid their lawyers, and they had their back against the wall. So they didn't have a choice, as they say in Hindi, marta kya na karta.
Yes.
So a lot of them actually went down this
So
route.
you think it's going to be a trouble for them to fit back into society when they're back? Because while there have been deportations in the past, on this time you're looking at a scale that, Trump is promising the largest deportation program in history, and you have to take him at his word, because he's the larger than life US president, and he wants to convey a message. And if a large number of these migrants start coming back, illegal immigrants start coming, that's going to create problems for the states that they left, Punjab and Gujarat. And you already have unemployment there. How are they going to fit back into society there?
And Sandeep, is one of the most indignified ways of sending them back to is in a cargo plane with one
Yes.
toilet, and the last shipment of these human resources that went where they
Yes.
were shackled, and 5,000 had already been deported. But this will be the first time they'll be packed like cattle class. It's a
Yes.
24-hour journey from the United States, and it's in a military aircraft, although it's costing Donald Trump very dearly.
Yes.
And he wants to quickly do it before, legally all of this gets challenged. He wants to simply, live up to his political promises and get it out of his table by saying, oh, I did it, but it's the Congress, or it's the
Yes,
Republicans,
yes,
or it's the
absolutely.
Democrats
Trump
who
sending out a
speaking.
message, and 205 illegal Indian immigrants packed in one military aircraft with one toilet, as you pointed out. But I'm going to ask Ramneek about this deportation program. What has been the impact of this on the ground in Punjab, Ramneek? There is a very flourishing donkey network that takes illegal immigrants overseas. It's been in place for several decades, and there's been a spurt in this in these numbers over the last 4 or 5 years, and that's possibly one of the reasons that Trump was elected as well. The Americans were fed up with this flood of immigrants. But tell us about the impact of his deportation program back home in India, in Punjab. Has it dampened the spirits of the donkey network that sends these illegal immigrants abroad, or have they just merely hiked up their rates?
Well, good evening, Sandeep. So let me start by saying this. Well, the real impact would be visible once these boys and girls start to actually come back and get back into the society. Because as of now, they are illegals, all right. I mean, from the US perspective, they have every right to eject these people from their country. They're illegals. Irrespective of the kind of money they spent. I mean, 40 lakhs, 50 lakhs once a year, doesn't matter. What you spend to get there is irrespective now, number one. Number two, well, on ground, the spirits are very different. I'll tell you how it is, that most of these people have been processed.
Right.
They have been processed, like, Lali was mentioning. There are people who have approached their asylee lawyers and their cases are being pursued.
Right.
So anyone who's gone to the, Homeland Department, they're told that we've entered US in whatever ways, and they've asked for either a political asylum or any other form of asylum within the United States.
Yes.
They are considered not to be ejected. And, when these people have poured in the US from Punjab not by the thousands, but by the lakhs.
Yes.
And like you rightly said, it's not just a problem which is restricted to Punjab. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of Gujaratis.
Yes.
There were a few cases where, whole family got killed in the winter when they were trying
on the Canada border. Yes.
From Canada to the US. So the donkey business is not just from the Mexico side; it's also from the Canadian side.
Yes.
And I would also go to the extent in saying that Manish was mentioning that there were a lot of Khalistani. So for us, it's a problem where
it's a national security angle as well. Yes. Of course.
Our people go there. And they seek asylum on the basis of their intent for a separate homeland. And Khalistan is a good escape route for them to get processed legally in the US. And the West, complete West, let's say Europe and US and every other country put together, they had actually been experimenting with an open border policy.
Yes.
A lot of which you see today, the matter that we discuss at hand, that is the illegal migrants in US or any other part of the world, that was a part of the deep state, let's say, or the Joe Biden, or however you wish to put it. They were experimenting an open border policy.
Yes.
And while these countries initially were scarcely populated, and the public, the policy makers and the polity were in favor of immigrants initially, but now they are against any migration to their country because the kind of crime that has gone up.
Yes.
And 18,000 is hardly a number. I can tell you that this would come just from one district of Punjab.
Right.
Hardly a number. So when you talk about the ground reality, again, like you asked Sandeep, the thing is, these boys and girls will still look for a different country. I mean, if they're pouring into the US today, they'll probably be heading to Italy. If, they're being deported, they're not going to stay. They're going to go back again.
They're going to try again and they're going to go back.
The American dream, it's about going abroad and making a life for themselves. And like Lali said,
yes,
we Punjabis, we believe in not just living life king size and dignity and pride. There is no dignity and pride in being illegal.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, it's more of a paid chal, if I may say,
Yes.
Herd
mentality.
One guy goes out of the village and the others follow suit.
Yes.
And the real picture doesn't come out really because nobody tells what conditions you live in.
Right.
You
Absolutely.
just see the flashy clothes and you see the jewelry and you see the perfumes. That is all.
Right. It's all that thing about telling the pin that you're living life king size in the West and you're living the American dream, and the reality might of course be very different. But Manish,
that may not be the case.
Look at the long-term impact on this. The fact is that there are 7 lakh illegal Indians in the United States, and deporting them could take several months, even years. And there are these massive detention camps that are being built in the United States now, even as we speak. And of all the places in Guantanamo Bay, they are reopening that base and they're converting it into a gigantic detention center for illegal immigrants. And of course, who knows, there could be Indians in those camps as well. Now that doesn't look very good for India, that the fact that you have Indian youth, young Indians and men and women stuck in those detention centers, those stories are going to come out. You know, you're a veteran on the foreign policy beat. Give us a sense of how the MEA, how anxious the MEA is to prevent this from overshadowing the Trump Modi bonhomie that we've seen in the past.
So the good thing is that the both sides understand the whole issue, and the both sides is working together, and that's why see, it's correct that illegal immigrants is really a problem, but at the same time there are some genuine issues related to green card holders or related to H-1B visa, which government of India is pursuing very seriously with the US administration. And US administration is also saying that they are considering to fit their policy so that the Indians will not be affected because of those policies. Let's see what happens when Prime Minister Modi and President Trump will meet on 30th February.
Absolutely.
I think that there will be something, and we are very much hopeful. But at the same time, see, the issue is with illegal immigrants.
Yes.
Here is the problem, because most of the time those innocent people or those peoples who are looking a better life for a better opportunity, they are actually they are actually in the trap of some criminal organization.
Yes.
And the government of India is worried about that. Just
Right.
imagine how they enter to the US via donkey routes, and it's impossible for anyone like us to enter via the donkey routes. So
Yes.
the government of India is very much worried about this, and the US administration understand the whole issues. So that's why there is a need for each and everyone, like for media, for civil society,
Yes.
for government side also, to differentiate between legal immigrants and
Yes.
illegal immigrants.
I think that's going to be
There
the
are-
challenge, Manish. Yeah, you know, distinguishing between the legal and the illegals. And I think the MEA will be walking on eggshells right now to ensure that, you know, the legal routes, the H-1B case is not, sullied by this influx of deportations that we're expecting. But Surinder, you had a point to make, and I had to ask you about what the sentiment is back in the United States right now. You have deep connect with the diaspora, but what are they saying about this massive, unprecedented round of deportation of illegals?
It depends on who you're talking to, a Democrat or a Republican. But having said that, Sandeep, I'm going to make a absolutely non-politically correct argument purely based on my experiences.
Yes.
Well, while Mansab rightly said, it's absolutely the prerogative of any country to formulate laws, and it is part of their jurisdiction and brief
Yes.
to allow who comes in and who doesn't come in. But, a very big but, why does America have so many illegal aliens? I want you to think about it. America needs people. They
Yes.
have these backdoor policies in which they allow immigrants to come in by the back door.
Right.
I personally went through one of them. What happens in America is a lot of jobs which the average American wouldn't do, a lot of these Indians, from Mexicans or other people from Central America or the
Right.
other parts of the world would do. So very often they would open up schemes
Right.
trying to rehabilitate them, called the amnesty scheme. When I
Right.
went in the late 80s after I graduated, there was a farming scheme. So all you had to do was, and by the way, it was all within the parentheses of the law, otherwise I wouldn't speak on TV.
Yes.
You get 4 affidavits signed and notarized by your friends that you were involved in farm. They considered your case and they took you 5, 7 to 10 years to give you a green card. And the American gain was that A, they got you into the system, B, they got their taxes, and C,
Right.
they didn't give you any social welfare. And lo and behold, I missed the farming scheme because I was in college. Then
Right.
2 lawyers, Messi and Lulac, took American INS to court. And they said, while this scheme was on, our client had gone to visit to Canada, so I got these affidavits made, which were nothing but piece of paper, purely notarized at $10 each from the local, authority. and then they recognized and gave me a green card. So the larger point I'm trying to make is that it takes two to tango. America has always had this backdoor policy,
Yes.
and now Trump, which is absolutely part of his brief to do this absolute surgery.
Yes.
That's why he started the hornet's nest, because America needed these people.
Yeah.
And I'm still not too sure how many will be deported, because it's a very expensive exercise. As
Yes.
Mansab said, there are millions and millions, and that itself would be a mammoth cost of sending them back.
Yes.
So
Close
this
to a
is some
trillion
sort
is
of
what we've been
publicity.
hearing,
There is some
Surinder
sort of
Singh Lali.
publicity.
Yes.
Sorry?
But yeah, we are
There is some
hearing it
sort
could.
of publicity.
Yes. We are hearing it
In
could
the
cost up to
American way.
$1 trillion to deport all of the illegals in the United States, especially if they choose to do it in this fashion using very expensive military transports rather than commercial airliners. But Ramneek, in conclusion, what should India do on our side of the border to ensure that you don't have illegal Indians going there into Europe, into North America, into Canada, in the United States? I'm sure there should be something that the state governments should do to discourage this kind of outward migration of people. What to your mind needs to be done to prevent this?
Well, see, migration is a thriving business. If you come to the hinterlands of Punjab, you just see two big advertisements on the roadsides. One would be those of churches, and the others would be of migrants or work visas or islets.
Yes.
I mean, this is what this society has been preparing itself for about a decade over now.
Yes.
And this migration didn't start now, like Lali said, in the 80s. Well, the Canadian dream started, when Olympics were held. And then it just kept on. There was a time when you didn't need a, formal visa to travel within the Commonwealth. And India and Canada both were part of the Commonwealth. So they were very different ways of getting there.
Right.
That was one. Number two, when you ask specifically as to what the governments are doing, they're doing nothing about it.
They're doing nothing about it, absolutely. And that's really alarming, Ramneek Singh. Unfortunately, we're completely out of time here. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. In conclusion, I must say that Indians are the richest, most prosperous migrants to the United States, the legal immigrants. But India needs to ensure that the deportation of the illegal immigrants don't cloud the prospects of the Indians in the US, who are some of the best and the brightest contributing to the US economy and, of course, contributing back home. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us this evening.